is that childbearing in Africa, what demographers call fertility, has become such an interesting issue. Puzzling, really, surprising. So at the current time, the highest levels of fertility in the world are in sub-Saharan Africa. We have this measure of the number of births women have in their whole lifetime. In Africa, for the continent as a whole, it's still over 5 births per woman. There's no place else in the globe that's like this. Even Asia, it's below 3 almost everywhere. So Africa is a different place now when it comes to childbearing, and we're struggling to understand this. Demographers had ideas 20, 30 years ago that it would be different than this. In the period after World War II, Asia, Latin America had dramatic declines in the childbearing, the fertility rate. So nowadays, in most countries, in Latin America, Asia, just like in Europe, women have 2 births on average or less. So it seems like Africa would follow the same trajectory, the same trend. And there were some indications in the 1980s, the 1990s, that Africa was starting down the same pathway. Well, it didn't turn out that way. And the demographic forecasts were in error. The United Nations, which is the major authority for demographic projections, demographic estimates, over the last 15 years has regularly had to increase their projections for Africa, their projections of fertility, and therefore their projections of the size of the population. It's grown because the United Nations demographers, they too were quite surprised. So to this point, we have to say Africa has been a different story than any place else on the globe in terms of how childbearing is changing with the times. It's a really it's a story we're all surprised by and we're all trying to understand. There are some important differences. Most notably, the countries in southern Africa, especially the Republic of South Africa, but also the nearby countries, Namibia, Botswana, they have distinctly lower rates of fertility, less than 3 births per woman. Not so different than you would find in many parts of Asia and Latin America. So the southern part of Africa is an entirely different story. And actually, when you compare the Eastern Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, these countries, the Middle Africa, Congo especially, and then the Western Africa, which is Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Ghana, these countries, there's also some important differences. And the fertility rates are highest in the West, in West Africa, especially the Sahelian countries, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso. These are now the highest levels of fertility in the world. And in those countries, actually, women are still average 6 births per woman or higher. That's the number of births they would have in their whole lifetime. Projections for these countries, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, in Western Africa, are for their population doubling or even tripling during the 21st century. And I should say that's the UN projection that is assuming eventually there will be some fertility decline. Mm-hmm. It's not as if they're assuming that childbearing is never going to change. But you have to say now, based on the experience of the last 20, 30 years, that the fertility decline in Africa will be slow. That's now the most reasonable expectation. And this is the other departure from the other regions I should mention. Asia, Latin America, when the fertility began to decline, when childbearing began to change, It changed very quickly, very rapidly, amazingly rapidly, actually. In one generation, from mother to daughter, you would go from women having 4, 5, or 6 children to women only having 2, let's say. So very rapid transformation of family life, really. We're not yet seeing signs that Africa will be like that. So this is what we're all wrestling with now. So now it seems, without question, Africa's different when it comes to the fertility, childbearing. Why? And the factors you mentioned, I think they are all candidates for explanation. Culture would be especially about the importance of the lineage, of the clan, of ancestors, and maintaining large generations to keep the family going. And this is tied to their religious beliefs. The social factor is especially the kinship. And African society, maybe more than any other societies, what you gain from your wider kinship network is so essential in people's lives. The kind of services, the material resources. So to reduce your childbearing is to reduce the kinship network, and this is maybe perceived as dangerous. Economic development, we know from Asia and Latin America that usually childbearing changes when the economy changes, when incomes rise, when there is a modern employment sector that gives people good jobs. They can go to offices, have a nice income, rather than working outdoors. This is a major attraction for having smaller families. So maybe that's what Africa has lacked. I think there's a lot to be said for an explanation has to do with politics, really. That you need strong states, strong governments that provide kind of services. So it helps the economy, but it's a matter of schooling, of health services, kind of a regularity of life, a predictability of life, so you can feel secure having just a few children, because you don't require a lot of children to feel secure in your life, because the state has given you kind of security and comfort. I think that's possibly a very big factor in African societies. It's a region with not very many successful states, we would have to say. So these are all the contending explanations, and I would say we don't have consensus among demographers about which of these is the most powerful. Now there's tremendous, there's intense interest in improving family planning services throughout the continent of Africa because of this realization that fertility decline has been so slow. And so we're really seeing now an interest in providing good family planning that we didn't see in the past. So, and I think most of us would say that whatever the impact on levels of fertility, it's a good thing. It's the right thing for women, for couples to have capacity to control their childbearing. Now, how much difference can it make in demographic terms? We probably have to be cautious about how much family planning is going to lead to a reduction of fertility in Africa for the following reason. We think of what family planning achieves. It helps couples avoid pregnancies they don't want, they would prefer not to have. But all the data we have for Africa is that most of the childbearing is desired, it's wanted. There is some unintended pregnancy, some unintended fertility. So family planning can achieve something by helping couples avoid those pregnancies. But they're a rather small fraction of the full amount of childbearing. So I think we all feel it's a very wise investment, very useful investment to improve family planning services. Actually, it's rather inexpensive, so it's a good thing to do. But for fertility to decline substantially in sub-Saharan Africa, it's going to take more than just better family planning programs. That would be my view. You get some dispute about that, but that's be my view.